A little bit first about where you were born and where you grew up.
Well, I was born and raised in Williams, Iowa.
Grow up there?
Hmm?
Did you grow up there too?
Yes. So I was there until I went into service. Well, you know, I went to college, but at that time I never thought I'd ever leave Williams. I was happy there. Never did go back, you know, to live after I got out of service.
So you went to school there?
Went to high school there.
Did you graduate?
Yeah.
What year was that?
38.
And then you came to Ellsworth College?
No, I stayed out of school a year. Didn't have any money, and then I went to Iowa State a year. And then Ellsworth I came to Ellsworth because I was about to go into service, and I wanted to get in that CPT, Civilian Pilot Training Program. I thought I wanted to be in the Air Force, and I thought it would give me a jump start. And a lot of us were in it. And
so what year was that you started in that program?
let's see, 39, 40. 39, 40, I was in Iowa State. 40, 41, it would have been 1941. I was in the second bunch. There was a bunch that flew in 1940, in the fall of 1940, and I was in the spring of 41.
But that was before we were at war, wasn't it?
No, we were, I think,
Well,
and we were involved a little bit.
at least we knew we were
Because,
going to be.
yeah, because if I'd have been drafted, I'd have been in service by then. I've forgotten just when that did happen that bad. But I was longer getting into service by enlisting than I would have been if I'd been drafted, because I had to wait to be called. Then I went into the Air Force. I went down to San Antonio, Texas, and took all the tests to be pilot. Hell, I couldn't pass the eye test.
Oh.
And depth perception, and so I ended up being a navigator instead of a
pilot.
Which
Tell
is just
me
as well.
about the Ellsworth program. That was a one-year program?
I believe it was just 1 year we had it, 2 semesters.
What did they teach you?
Well, we got a private pilot's license. I had about 40 hours flying, and I flew. And now, you know, I've never flown as a pilot since. That was the last time I ever flew as a pilot.
Oh, really?
It was after.
Had you flown in a plane before you?
No, I'd never been in an airplane before. Oh. No. Rocket Chief it was. I think you probably seen those pictures back. Weren't you around when they had that Ellsworth reunion?
Well, I just saw those pictures out at the airport over the 4th of July.
Yeah, probably the same one that I got. I've got just one picture. I don't think I'm in it, but it's the one they took at that time.
So what kind of a plane did you learn on?
An Arranca. What do they call that? Arranca Chief, I guess it was called.
That's the single engine?
Single in, side by side, you know.
Is there like a seat behind for the trainer?
No, they're right next to each other.
Okay.
They had, I remember when I took my test, the final test to get my license, I had me a check pilot in with me, and the field was out across from Bill Hamilton's, right across the street south. The airport was. All it was a landing strip. And I taxied down there. It was a different airplane that I'd been flying in. I taxied down there to south end of the field to take off, and the damn plane didn't have any brakes. It had some, but they were hardly any. And I damn near ran through a barbed wire fence before I ever got off the ground. I swung that plane around, and the lower edge, or kind of the wings were fabric, and I swung that plane around, and the lower edge of the wing actually snagged the barbed wire fence and put some little holes in it. Now, hell, we can't even fly this plane now, and I'm washed out, and I haven't even gotten off the ground, but we took off and flew, and I got my license, but you can see they weren't very fussy back in those days.
So the whole program, you're only flying 40 hours?
40 hours is all the flying time I got in, yeah.
And who was the instructor, do you remember?
Bert Earl Nichols, I think Nichols his name was.
From Isle Falls?
No, he was from Mason City. Quite a few fellows around here, Clyde Castle, Marvin Braggy, who lives in Marshalltown now, but his brother DeVere is right next door to us here, and the guy named, I think, Thurman Denial, I believe he's up by Dow's or somewhere, and there's quite a bunch of them.
How many were in your class?
10. And there was 10 in the previous class too. I believe there was just 20 of us that ever went through it.
Just 2 years of classes?
Well, it was really all in 1 year. It was a semester course, just a 1 semester course. But
okay. So there was only 20 pilots that went through the Ellsworth?
I'm not positive of that, but I think I'm right about that. I don't think they'd had it the following year.
Did you know any of the guys that were in the previous class?
Oh yeah, I'll go up and get that picture of some of the I think the picture of a previous class.
You got a box of stuff up there?
Well, that's everything I have. I'll go down.
Oh, I have to bring it all down. This is all the first time I've heard this too.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, you'd be surprised. This is about the 25th interview I've done, and lots of times that's the case. I interviewed a guy, Claire Galkey. He lives over, he's that house right on the river bend that people sit on his yard to watch the ski show.
What, a little tiny house?
No, it's a big red house with 3-car garage.
Oh, on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And talked to him, had a good hour-long interview, and his wife was sitting there, and she was just, listening like she'd never heard it before, and she hadn't. And then at the end, he told me that's the first time he talked about it since World War II.
Yeah, this has the names of all the people on it. And that's I didn't notice that, but I think that's probably mostly the fellas that were in the first class. That it might be a mixture of the two, but I don't believe I'm in that.
I was trying to see if one of them looked like you, but I can't tell here. I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna hold it in front of the camera here. Get a picture. You don't think any of these are you, though, huh?
I don't think so.
I'll do that later. Is this Joe Gomer?
Yeah.
Did you know him?
Yeah.
I just talked to him on the phone today.
Oh, he's quite an outstanding fella.
Yeah, I'm gonna go up and talk to him next month.
In Duluth.
Yeah.
He was back. When he gets back once in a great while, I don't know if you see him. He ended up a colonel, I think, and I think he may have stayed in there.
Colonel or major, I'm not sure what. But
You might be right. But,
Well, according to this, this is just the class. It's not the picture, is it?
no,
Okay.
yeah, I think they've got both classes listed.
Joe had was one of 2 colored families in this town. The other one was Ozzie McCullers, who moved back and lives here now.
I talked to him too.
And Ozzie and Joe are both 2 outstanding.
So does he live here now?
Yeah, he lives
just on the south side of the River Street Bridge.
right across the river from Tom.
How long has he been here?
Well, it's been a year now, I guess.
know. I tried to get an interview out of him, but he doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
He wasn't treated very well because he's black. So
Yeah, well,
he said it was kind of a bad experience for him. He didn't want to talk about it.
well, he was at a particular disadvantage, and he'd never been around black people until he left Isle Falls.
Mm-hmm.
All he knew was white people, and he got treated well. I suppose there could have been exceptions, but generally speaking, I don't think his color anybody ever paid attention to in Isle Falls, or like Joe either. Joe had a brother, Charlie, who was not near as outstanding as Joe, put it mildly, but my old boss, Cliff Warnick, Savings and Loan, I think, helped bring the Gomer family into town. I believe they came in and did janitorial work, and that's what I know at the banks and different things and other, and that was what they did, and they were a very well thought of family.
Was Joe Gomer a good flyer, as far as you know?
Oh, I think so, yeah. So I know about him more than I know anything, but I'm not even sure. I think he might have flown in fighters, but I'm not sure now what he flew
Yeah,
in.
he was one of the Tuskegee Airmen. I don't know if you ever heard of them or not. This was the first black fighter group. And he's kind of a pioneer.
Uh-huh.
And of course they ran into a lot of racial prejudice, you know, because the service was segregated then. So
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't think blacks could fly planes, let alone in combat.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just like anybody else. Some are good and some are bad.
Yeah.
And,
Well, they distinguished themselves, and he was one of that group. So I'm looking forward to talking to him.
you know, just to sit and talk, I can't remember things. I belong to a Hunter Bomb Group Association, which I belonged to a number of years. I didn't even know about for a long time, but I've been to 3 or 4 meetings.
Reunions?
Reunions. One time they had them every 5 years, or maybe it was every 10 years, but now they have them every other year because
Everybody's dying off.
yeah, and there's one this year, and I don't know if I'm going or not, but
Where is it?
it's in Fort Worth this year. Last time it was in Little Rock, and before that it was St. Louis, and I was in one out in Dayton. I think I've been to 3 of them. I really wasn't going to go anymore. I have a daughter, Teresa, out in Denver, that really took an interest, and she wanted to go to one.
Oh.
And that's the reason I went, and I ended up going to St. Louis with her, and she took my oldest grandson, Christopher, along, who was about 8 at that time, and he was the only little guy there, and he was kind of the belle of the ball. There was probably, 700 to 1,000 people there, and then this last time I went, all 3 of my grandsons went with me, and I guess I got more fun out of watching them and getting together with my crew. As far as some of my crew, stayed in and really knew all kinds of people over there in the 8th Air Force. My pilot was a colonel, and he stayed in, and he just fell a little bit short of being a general when he got out.
Let's talk about your crew. Let's go back and talk about when you got done at Ellsworth. How long was it before you went into the service?
Golly. It would have been, I would have graduated from Ellsworth, I suppose, in May or June, and...
Of what year? 42?
41, wasn't it? 38, 39, I stayed out, 39, 40, 41 it would have been.
41. And then you went into the service when?
Well, I got called in January of 42. January 43 I got called in. It must have been more than a year.
Okay.
January 43 I got called in.
And then where'd you go first when you were in the service?
I went down to San Antonio, and then I ended up being a navigator, and I got my training at San Marcos. Fun. About those.
Some good stuff.
Well, no, it's a yearbook. It's like going to. It was like going to college,
Can you see what you looked like back then?
Oh, I don't know. I guess there is a picture of me in there somewhere, but 43, 13, September. It was September of 1943. Some of that stuff, if you want to take it and look at it.
I appreciate that. I might do that.
Get back. I had a kind of a bad experience when they had this Ellsworth reunion, the Air Force reunion they called it. I had a couple of sextants that we used in navigation. Actually, the only time I ever used them was in training. Never did use them because we flew all daylight over in England. But I took them up to school here for display during that time, and I told them at that time if they were going to have a permanent display, why they could have them, but they didn't. And what happened? They got misplaced, and I haven't any idea where they are now.
Oh, that's terrible.
I would there again. Some of my grandchildren have an interest in it now,
Sure.
And I don't know where they, and I can't find them.
Well, maybe they'll turn up yet.
I hope so, but I doubt it.
I can remember messing with them when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I always wondered what happened to those.
yeah, well, that's what happened. Will Dillsaver was kind of responsible for getting that thing put together at that time, and a year or so ago, I asked him if he had any idea, and he went up and checked, and he said he
Couldn't find them.
he couldn't find. He thought surely they'd be up there somewhere, but they're come in cases that look like small makeup cases about that size. I meant, and they weren't real small things, they were pretty good size, probably about the size of your camera there, and each one, and
This was a sextant.
yeah, a second
Sight
one.
the stars and.
Two of them.
Yeah, I had two different types, and
Huh.
he used them. Really, I don't know. They might have used them over in the Pacific, but navigation over in the crew, and my pilot was all gun ho for it, and I said, well, go ahead, but don't count me out. I'm not going to be responsible for losing the whole 8th Air Force. What happened when you're a lead crew? You lead your. We were a 100th Bomb Group. You lead your group. Sometimes the group will lead a whole squadron, and sometimes it's conceivable that you could end up being the lead plane in the whole damn Air Force, and I was being partly facetious, but it was more responsibility than I wanted to take. And anyway, we never did. Maybe we all stayed together. They didn't move up, but it was because of me that they didn't. And I also noticed an awful lot of. I wasn't what I would call terribly brave. I noticed there's a tendency for all the lead planes to get shot down.
Another reason not to volunteer.
I wouldn't trade the experience for anything, but
Well, was it at San Marcos that they decided you should be a navigator and not a pilot?
Yeah, I guess probably I had a choice. I'm not sure now, it's 50-some years ago, whether I had a choice whether to become a navigator or a bombardier, but I anyway ended up being a navigator. And
Well, where did you go after you left San Marcos?
oh golly, we took I guess we got on a train and headed out from Spokane, Washington, and we ended up one night overnight down here in Manila, Iowa overnight, and I remember on our way up to Spokane,
Okay.
and I remember there being a dance in town. Anyway, I wasn't a dancer, but we all got off and enjoyed ourselves. Then up in Spokane, Washington, I was up, not Spokane, that was the nearest big city, it was Moses Lake, Washington, and I was there a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and was assigned to a crew. John Gibbons was my pilot, and anyway, we got together and we were there, and then from there we all went to Sioux City. Let's see, it was in September that I got out of training, and went to Sioux City, and we had a little bit of training there. I can't even remember what it was all about, and didn't mount much, and then we went out in Nebraska, picked up our plane, and flew overseas.
What kind of plane?
B-17.
Okay.
Houston. On our 5th mission, we had flown our first four missions, but the first 4 of them were to Berlin. And God, on one of them we were in a top squadron there, and there was 18 planes in our squadron, and when we came back there was only 3. We were one of them. It was really, they were really shooting. But anyway, on our 5th mission,
Mm-hmm.
which was the Pas-de-Calais, France, just over the channel, which is we really look forward to because of how you could see the target before you left England, and it was real easy. No worry. Well, that's the one where flak hit us. An 88 millimeter flak shell went right into the radio room and exploded and blew the radio operator right out of the airplane. That was the milk run, those things, all this stuff you can borrow, but I want it back.
Sure. I can get it back to you tomorrow.
In a few days.
Wow, it really took
Anyway, the pilot didn't, and I was up in the nose of my bombardier, and I wasn't even aware of how bad it was. When you get hit flak, when it comes close to you, your plane jumps, and really the plane didn't jump much more for this than it would for something else, and the bombardier had to leave though because the bombs didn't get released, and he had to go back there. And all there was no way of getting from the front of the airplane to the back because that hole was about 2/3 of the way around the fuselage, and it was about 8 feet long, and he had to crawl out there and with bomb he looked straight down, and whatever he used, a screwdriver or pliers or whatever it was, and release those bombs over the channel before we could come back. And
gotta do it manually, huh?
yeah, and right there, if I'd happened to have been the bombardier, we'd have been gone. Cause I know I would have fallen right.
Wow. Now you say I didn't see this one back. Wow. You say the radio man was killed?
Oh, he's blown right out of the airplane. We lost quite a few of our crew. I think he's the only one that was lost when I was flying. Once in a while, we'd fly with other crews, having to fill in for somebody that was short, and 4 or 5 of the guys I flew with never made it back because of being shot down with some other crew.
Was the plane able to fly like this? I'm surprised it was even able to.
Nobody could understand. We landed at the first base we saw when we got back to England, and nobody could understand how the pilot was ever able to land it because the automatic flight control equipment was gone, and he really made a very smooth landing, but never flew again. The plane never did.
Yeah.
This is a publication that Hunter Bomb Group puts out several times a year, 3, 4, 5 times a year, and it has a write-up. Here's write-up. Well, it has a write-up about our crew and about my grandchildren in it. And if you want to take that along and look at it, it might help you in getting perspective on it.
Well, how many missions did you fly altogether?
I flew 35. We had when we went over there, we had to fly 25 missions, and then we get to come back to the United States. Well, somewhere along the way, they changed the rules a little, said you could fly 25 and come back, and then fly another 25, or you could fly 35 and not have to go back. Well, I chose to fly 35. My pilot and bombardier decided to fly 25, go back, and then go back to the United States for a couple of months, and then go back and fly another 25. Well, I was lucky. I made all 35. The rest of my crew got shot down on their 35th mission, and not all of them were killed, but some were prisoners of war. But we had 4 or 5 killed. Lost 2 or 3 radio operators.
Were most of your missions over Germany?
Yeah.
This must have been later in the war then.
No, it was really right in the...
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, it was right. Well, we flew the first 5 missions to Berlin. But, and that was right, it was, I suppose the war had been flying missions, oh, I'm just guessing at this, less than a year at that time. The United States Air Force, I meant. And then it lasted, I got done flying my missions in July maybe, and came home, and I think the war, I think it went on another year and a half after that, the war.
So you said your missions, you were the first ones to go over Berlin?
Yeah.
Your flight group?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that little notebook that you kept, Dad, help with details?
That's what I'm looking for.
Kept like a little mini
Like a diary?
two-sentence diary.
Well, it's not, you really couldn't call it a diary, but yeah, it is.
In 2 sentences, it would be lengthy.
So like a log.
Well, this is a map. It's kind of hard to tell. I drew lines from our base to all,
Wow.
to every mission we flew.
1 minute break. John, would you like some iced tea or?
Oh, no, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I want to ask you one other question.
Yeah.
What was your big collection that you were written up in the paper?
Oh.
Was it Star Wars?
No, it was from an old TV show called The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh,
in the
sure enough.
1960s. So
Yeah, okay.
that's what it was on.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks anyway. Wow, it looks like you covered the whole continent.
Yeah, we went a lot of different places. That's this, and every time I wrote like half a dozen lines about each mission on here. Now you won't find 35 lines on that map, because we went to Berlin 4 or 5 times. I've forgotten now, but there's kind of a little bit synopsis of every mission we flew.
Now, these are the names of the planes on top here? Like
Yeah.
Berlin Playboy, Miss Irish.
Yeah, Miss Irish was our plane, but it's the one that got the big hole in it. And then we flew after that we flew different planes.
Did you have some nose art on the front? A picture of some kind in the front? Like some of them did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta.
Huh.
Were those dated?
Yeah. April 11th, 1944. They're all in April so far. Flew every day.
I don't know now. This. Open these.
Lost 15 planes out of 36.
This is Miss Irish, but here's one here. Yeah, you can look at it. I just happen to think I've got a picture upstairs at my bum.
This is interesting that you kept track of every mission. Now, do you know Wayne Ziegler?
No, no, not really. His wife was my little grandson's music teacher, but I didn't.
Well, he was, I think he was a pilot on a B-17, and he kept track of each one. He had, was there like a little tag that you'd put on the bombs? A little wire tag or something? Anyway, he took one of those off each mission and wrote on the tag where they went and whether it was a milk run or...
No, I'm not familiar with that at all.
But he kept track of every mission just like you did. Good idea. That's great that he's kept so much stuff. A lot of them didn't keep anything, which surprised me.
That's very too bad. It would be great if you could interview Ozzy. It'd be nice to hear that side.
He said he came
Must've
back
been-
to Iowa
must've been
Falls.
incredibly painful for him.
He got back to Iowa Falls. He said it was like 610 River Street or something where he lived, and he said he threw his uniform and his ditty bag in the middle of the street and never thought about him again. And then
You can't say that blame him.
yeah, and then he said he tried to join he did join the American Legion when he got back, but they wouldn't let him in the building.
In Iowa Falls.
He was black,
Blame.
kicking the teeth. Huh?
My bombardier, Red Blakeman, a couple, 3 years ago, I've forgotten how long ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, commissioned an artist, and I don't know, pictures and imagination of our flight where we got shot up over France. He had to, I think he paid this guy $2,500 to do this, and then he sent us all prints, all the crew prints of it, and it's
Wow, that's quite a painting. It's almost like a photo.
and that's my.
Did the artist use those photos to go by to?
Well, I'm not sure what he used. My bombardier here, pictures on this, had that done out. He's lives out in California, and I don't really know. This is
quite the painting.
I guess there's a right up in the
I've seen it
back.
100 times.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you're kidding.
It's been hanging up in my room for a couple of years.
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
I think
This was a thing they issued.
6.
This is the thing they issued us after finishing our missions. You lucky bastards stuff. You've probably seen those before.
Ron Troutner has something kind of like that. He showed me.
Yeah.
Well, according to your little log here, you flew just about every day. Is that about right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Pretty constant.
We,
anyway, huh?
I suppose we'd fly, I don't remember how long, we'd fly, and then they give us flak leave for 2 or 3 days, and we go to London, and then we come back and fly.
What's flak leave? If you have a rough mission or something?
Well, they just call it flak leave, because, after you'd flown 3 or 4 missions, and I suppose it was probably supposed to relieve us of tension,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know why, flak leave, because that's what usually was coming up at us, was flak. Yeah.
Well, would you say this mission where the big hole got blown in the plane, was that the worst of the 35?
Well, it was from that standpoint. We never got hit like it, but it was not, hell, we didn't have any enemy fighters or anything. We had all kinds of missions where the enemy fighters were coming in at us, and there's a lot of missions that scary. This wasn't scary because it happened so fast. Hell, we just left England and we're flying back, and especially for me, I was up in the nose, and I wasn't aware of how bad it was till we landed. Of course, the pilot and the bombardier and those guys in the back end of the plane were, because no, that was one where we had the most damage on our plane, but golly, I remember flying one there's an Astrodome in these planes but it was for shooting stars, when you're for celestial navigation, and but I'd stick my head up in there to look to see if there's enemy fighters coming, and we were up around Rostock in northern Europe once, and I had my head stuck up there, and I just pulled it down, and the damn thing the dome got shot out.
By a fighter?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were fighters more of a threat than the flak, or the other way around?
Oh, I don't know. You could both. I expect my pilot John Gibbons has a definite opinion one way or another on that. But I don't.
Well, of your 35 missions, how many were milk runs and how many did you encounter quite a bit of resistance?
Yes.
About half and half, or?
Yeah. I don't know. Berlin. Pas de Calais, that was supposed to be a milk run, but it was Bordeaux, France. That was, well, I've got them marked in here, which ones are milk runs. So you can.
Okay. Well, how many times was your plane hit by flak? Just the once?
Oh no. Yeah, I suppose more times it was hit than not when you flew over little holes. Hell, getting a few to 100 holes in an airplane, but flak was not unusual.
Really?
But lots of times it didn't do any damage. I meant as far as hitting anything that kept you from going out of a mission and coming back.
How many times, or was the plane ever hit by, you said the one time the dome was hit by fighter fire.
Just a bullet.
Was that the only time you were hit by fighters? Or?
Oh, well, attack, I never shot any planes down, but members of my crew shot quite a few.
Did any of the fighters ever hit your plane with their machine guns?
No, I don't remember that, if they attacked it, but if ever hit. I can, my Nova tail gunner shot down several fighters, and my bombardier shot at least one down, and I think probably everybody in the damn plane shot one down but me. I never even fired a machine gun.
Yeah, but didn't you have a story about you had to do that once?
Well, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, the navigator had guns on each side. I was sitting right up in here, and on each side of me I had a machine gun. I could go back and forth to one side of the plane to the other, shooting a machine gun, 50 caliber machine gun. But I think my whole training with a gun was about 50 rounds on the ground over in England before I flew my first mission. And with 50 rounds, is about a minute. And anyway, one of our missions, I don't remember which one it was, we had fighters coming in from the front, and Red's chin turret went out. It was no good, inoperable. And he was pointing them out and having me shoot at him, and I wouldn't have been so bad. But my gun had tracer bullets in. Every fifth bullet or something was a tracer bullet, and you could see where my bullets were going. There was never a safer fighter in all of you. I wasn't coming within 10 miles of anything. I thought my bombardier was going to fill his pants.
I didn't realize the navigator had guns he could use.
Yeah, I don't know originally we did, but I did when I did. However, I don't think we were an integral part of our.
Well, and you said the bombardier actually shot at a fighter once too. That's the bombardier usually didn't use the machine gun, did they?
Oh yeah, we have.
They'd fill in
a lot more than I did, because they had it right up in the nose in the front there, and it was a turret sort of thing. It ran, because you get attacked from the front quite often.
Okay. So your plane was hit by flak at least half the time, but
I would guess I don't have a good memory. I go to these Hunter bomb group meetings and listen to these guys reminisce, and half the stuff they talk about I've forgotten about, and I've got a strange memory.
Well, did you ever have any trouble getting back besides this time? Any other missions where you didn't know if you'd make it back or not because of the way the plane was damaged?
No, not really. We did have, I think we only had one mission where we had some engine trouble, and we had to turn around and come back by ourselves. But it didn't have anything to do with the attack. It was just something wrong with it.
What kind of targets were you usually going for? Were they like military installations or railroad installations?
Yeah, bridges and military installations. That was what they all were. But you know, when you have a 1,500 planes, you all drop on the lead plane. Each bombardier doesn't aim and drop on it. He's there, but they drop on the lead plane like it was. You see the lead plane drop bombs, and you drop yours, and naturally they hit a hell of a lot of things that weren't military with that kind of scatter bombing.
Couldn't be avoided.
If you knew what all you dropped on them, you might have a bad conscience. You could be dropping them on hospitals or anything else. You don't know.
And most of the targets in Germany were I assume like like you said, bridges, railroads, that kind of thing.
Munitions plants and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Were there very many? I've heard from other people that by the last year of the war, so there weren't that many German fighters. There was still a lot of flak, but not that many fighters. Was that your experience too?
Well, no, there were plenty of fighters when we were there.
Was there?
And the ones that protected us the best were the P-51s, as opposed to the
Mustang?
P-47s, or the P-38s. But we were glad to see any of them, because lots of times we didn't have fighter protection, especially when you get in too deep. The fighters didn't have range enough to go in with us when we were.
So sometimes you had no fighter protection at all?
Not on the longer missions. We did on the early part of it, but you take like an 8-hour mission or something like that, why the fighter plants couldn't go all that way, and
When you had your last mission, was there a celebration? Did you celebrate?
Yeah, not really. I was just, I don't remember. I couldn't even tell you what my last mission was. That's what kind of memory I got. I'd have to look at this. I don't remember, but we went to Stuttgart, and we went to, anyway, we were up to 28,000 feet, and those damn V-17s weren't really built to go that high, but we get up that high and higher sometimes in them, and we wore electric suits to keep warm, and you'd have frost that thick sticking out on your electric suits because it's that cold up there. I remember one time, what was it, 60 degrees below centigrade, and that figured out to be 85 below Fahrenheit. It'd be that cold up there. But we were comfortable in our electric suits. But
you had to have oxygen masks too, right? About 10,000.
We didn't have pressurized cabins. When I came back for flying missions, I applied for Air Transport Command, which was a real cushy job if you could get it. You got your pay, plus you got $6 a day per diem, which doesn't sound like much now, but back then, $6 a day was quite a little, and you'd fly in troops throughout the country. And anyway, while I was waiting for that, they sent me to Clovis, New Mexico, to a B-29 base. The B-29s, the ones that dropped.
Right.
And those damn B-29s, they were killing about as many people in training with those as they were in combat over in Europe, because they were not a very good airplane.
Really?
They were always having a breakdown of some kind.
Well, just yesterday, I work in Des Moines,
Yeah.
And this weekend they're having the Ankeny Air Expo.
Yeah.
And I stopped there after work, and I met the three of the crew members of the Enola Gay.
Yeah.
Paul Tibbetts and his navigator and bombardier, and they gave a real nice talk on dropping the atomic bomb, and it was real interesting. And there was a B-17
I'm sure it
there,
caused
too.
a lot of controversy out in the Smithsonian, hasn't it?
They talked about that, but they did a real good presentation. It was real interesting to meet them.
I know, I just plain did not want to fly in B-29s because they were that bad, and I was supposed to be training navigators for them, but while I was out in clothes, I must have been there, I don't know how long I was there, a month, for I got my call to go into Air Transport Command.
And where would that have been at? Where would you have been stationed for
To Air
that?
Transport Command?
Yeah.
You mean? Well, I went down to Biloxi Field in Mississippi briefly, and then I ended up in Puerto Rico at San Juan at Borinquen Field, which was considered at that time the. I ended up in Boca Raton, Florida, for a couple of weeks, but or ultimately ended up in Borinquen Field, and which is in the west edge of Puerto Rico, and they call that the country club of the Air Force because we had these beautiful reinforced concrete apartments we lived in with all the amenities, swimming pools and golf courses, and
Was the war still on?
yeah, the war was still on, and anyway, our mission was to fly between Miami and South America. We were picking up troops coming back. The war had ended over in Europe, and we were picking up troops to fly over to Japan.
Wow.
When
Getting ready
war
for the
was going
invasion.
on. And I was in Miami when peace broke out there. I think I probably flew 6 weeks or 2 months. I've forgotten how long it was down there before then the war of Japan was over with. But
You flew into South America?
yeah,
Where?
British Guiana. We flew.
Your Spanish was real fluent, I'm
Huh?
sure. I'm sure your Spanish was quite
Well, hell, we
fluent.
were never there. Never got off the base. Pick up a bunch of guys and bring them home. What on DC-3s we were flying then, and one time we were flying back from there, and we hit a storm, and the damn plane dropped 2,000 or 3,000 feet just like that, and it loosened all the rivets in that damn airplane, and we got back all right, but I don't know if that plane ever flew again or not.
I was just looking at your little notebook here. You've got one where you talk about, it looks like the target was Rostock.
Yeah,
And
that's where that dome got shot out.
okay. It says, saw several we shot at go down.
Mm-hmm.
Red definitely got one. Saw a pilot bail out.
Yeah,
You remember that? Can you tell me about that one?
No, I can't. You know, I would have, if you hadn't read it to me, I'd have forgotten it even happened.
Okay.
Uh,
Says you lost 64 planes that mission.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple here you talk about almost colliding with another plane.
Oh,
Does that happen
Yeah.
often?
oh God, it happened over England. We'd take off,
Two
and by the
missions in a
time
row.
by the time, the air bases were so close that the flight patterns almost overlapped, and we'd take off, and by the time we got 500 feet in the air, we'd be in overcast, and you take 1,000 planes going through that overcast and circling, trying to get up over the overcast. That's when it would happen.
Okay. And another one here you talk about some bombers dropped a bomb on a tail of another plane and killed the tail gunner.
Yeah.
You remember that incident?
I remember it now, but I don't remember the details at all. I don't even remember which mission it was or anything. Now, if you had some other of my members of my crew here, I'm sure they remember that vividly, but I just don't.
Well, it's been a long time. I understand that.
Yeah, but most people remember things like that, and I don't.
So were the missions over Berlin the roughest, you think? Or?
Well, they're as rough as any. We had a lot of them.
And I would
I
think
know
those
I
first
dreaded
ones,
them,
if you were the first ones to go over Berlin, I would think.
I'm talking about the first Americans now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Royal Air Force. They flew at night, you know, and they went over. Planes went over alone. They didn't fly in groups, and I think probably they very well could have bombed Berlin before America did, or the United States did, but I'm not sure about that. But we're the first
American bombers to go over Berlin.
Yeah,
So there's probably a lot of flack there, I would think. Okay. Well, anything else that comes to mind from these missions?
No. If you want to rummage through,
Well, I'd
stop
definitely like
thinking we
to.
can rummage through some of it. You're sure welcome to do it, but
Yeah, I can get back to you right away.
well, you know, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's just that I want to get it back.
Sure.
I don't want it to disappear.
Well, I want to take a picture of some of these things. But
Yeah.
anything else come to mind on those years? Sounds like you saw quite a bit of action.
Well, yes, we did, and
Were you married at the time?
oh no.
How old were you?
Oh, I was January. I was 22 when January '43. I'd have been 22. My birthday's in the fall. I'd have been 22 when I went. I meant when I went overseas.
Right.
And I'd probably 21 when I went into the service.
Were your other crew members all about that age too?
I would say somewhere in, that would be part of a top, and others would be a little younger. Well, we had a I don't know who's not in this, but we had a Colonel Kidd over there. He was a colonel, and he was the head of our, became head of our bomb group while I was over there.
Mm-hmm.
Colonel, and he was 23.
Amazing.
It's a funny thing. I didn't know, but he's never, all the other old commanding officers, one thing or another, have taken quite an interest in this 100th bomb group, because it had a reputation for being the bloodiest bomb group in the whole 8th Air Force, because so many of them got shot down.
Your group?
Yeah,
The 100th?
yeah, and this Colonel Kidd never wanted to come back. I don't think he ever went to a reunion about it. I don't know if I got that book.
Well, Bruce, I remember when you and I were 22. I don't think we would have handled that responsibility quite that well.
22 would have been what,
For me, would have been 74
Yeah, well, shit, yeah.
in there.
No. There wasn't, I mean, I think the last overwhelming sense of patriotism was the Second World War.
Here's something. This
Probably right.
This has got nothing to do with the war. Oh, yeah. I thought I had some here. Yeah, Jenny's brother, Gene Graham, was one of the early people in this silk screen business, silk screen process build, and he designed and created, I think he designed these things
For NASA?
for NASA early on, and he sent them to us, to me and all his, early on these were, and he said he thought they'd be valuable someday, and we saved them all.
Is this your son-in-law?
Yeah, well, Jenny's brother, my brother-in-law,
Oh, okay.
who is now no longer living, but those are decals that were prepared for,
Take a look at those.
So you might have a lot of money in that folder.
you might not. They're not complete. There for a while he was sending them for every mission, but then he changed jobs and wasn't doing that anymore. And
Yeah, you should hang on to these.
Yeah.
I bet they are going to be worth something.
yeah, I think the only trouble is I hang on to this.
Hopefully in my lifetime those were or
Yeah,
something.
the trouble is I hang on to stuff and then I forget where I put it.
Do you have any pictures of yourself during the war? Anything in uniform, maybe?
On myself, you mean all by myself?
Oh, or your crew, or a group, anything that shows what you looked like back
Yeah.
I
then.
think there's something in here. I remember seeing something in here. It's been decades since I've.
You look, I'm gonna.
And I resent the
I gotta
fact
go
that I
to
can
the
say
bathroom.
it's been
I'll be right
decades. It's like I saw him in here. Fall off. Navigation cadets. I would assume that would be him.
Yeah, I would assume so.
God, there's a lot. Jesus. Well, they are navigation cadets. Oh, in alphabetical order, too. Okay.
That'll help.
I know there's a picture of him.
He probably knows where it is.
Nope.
Now, this is interesting to me because, it sounds like that mission over the Pas de Calais when they lost the radio operator and the big hole was blowing the plane. That'd be the most serious one. All he wrote was, lost radio operator. It gives the date and where they went, but that's all he said about it, lost radio operator.
Yeah, but
That's interesting, that
can you imagine?
the understatement, it says a lot.
Can you imagine writing a log with any type of emotion in it? The thing would be, you have to haul it home in a.
Oh, yeah.
It'd
Oh, yeah.
be so lengthy, Let's say he's got a little thing about D-Day there, but it's just as brief as anything else,
Just that it happened.
Yeah. I remember reading it, it was like 3 lines, That was probably a method of emotional defense, too, I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been all kinds of publications come out about the 100th Bomb Group,
There's several of these, okay.
The first one that I know of came out, which I have. It's not very professional, but it's the story of a century. You might,
Let me see that, yeah.
there's a guy, one of the guys we run across in our meeting is Harry Crosby. He was a navigator. He was there before I got there, and he stayed throughout the whole war. And he's just a veritable. In fact, he ran this Splasher 6 thing for a long time. He got a phenomenal. He probably flew 100. He was a lead navigator. Probably flew 100 or more missions. I don't know, and which is unusual because ordinarily you're lucky
Yeah, that's a lot.
without getting shot down.
Right here.
That's a lot.
But that's
Found a picture? Let's see if you look the same.
He's got a hat on, so he probably does. But you had another picture of you in uniform.
well, I don't.
It's by itself, I think. Seems like you had like an overcoat on or something, or an Air Force heavy coat on or something.
There's all kinds of.
Had a hat on.
But here's my pictures that were. That was after I came back from overseas, I think.
Yeah, but you were in uniform. Uniform looks the same whether you're Williams or in England. Yeah, that I guess. Well, that these one of these were
This one went out from the barracks we lived in there.
Which one are you? Oh, you're the second from the right up here? Is that you?
Yeah.
is the radio operator that was killed on this picture?
Yeah, that's one of them. We had a couple radio. This is one. I think this is the one right here with my finger on it that got blown out of the airplane. Yeah. He was kind of a roustabout.
Did you get to be pretty good friends with the crew?
Oh yeah, we lived together.
I would think that you would.
Yeah, flew together. You become like a family. We didn't. The other 4 officers lived together, and the 6 enlistment lived right next to us. We did. I guess we didn't live in the same barracks, but we were close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think, risking your lives together, you would get pretty close.
Push my race gunner back. He's the gun hole one of a whole bunch. He was head of a Hunter Bomb Group Association, and he almost is too much when it comes to that. He talks about us as comrades, and hell, to me that's Nazi talk. We always used to think of. He doesn't mean it that way, but
is this you?
Yeah, there's all kinds of pictures of me when I've.
Oh, okay. And you say this was that's in Williams?
That was in Williams. Yeah, I was probably. I would guess it was just before I went overseas. I don't think it was when I came back. I think it was just before I went over. Probably came home from Sioux City over a weekend.
I didn't know Sioux City had a base.
Yeah, Sioux City Army Air Force Base. Yeah.
I didn't
In
realize
fact, that's the municipal airport now, I think.
Oh, same spot?
I think so. I'm not positive about that, but I think it is.
These are good pictures. So after Miss Irish was blown apart, did you get one particular plane for the rest of your missions, or did you switch around a lot?
You got changed around.
Yeah. They're about the same. They're the same.
The pilot named the airplane. He's
Got the inseams wrong.
John Gibson. He's Irish as could be, and from St. Mary's, Kansas, and.
Well, you must be Irish too.
No, but my wife.
I saw your sign on the
Oh, my wife.
Okay.
My wife.
That explains it.
I'd tell her if she works at it, she can overcome that.
I want to get close up to these too. That plastic makes it a little hard.
Those slip out, don't they?
Well, I don't.
Oh yeah, it'll come out.
I might slip this one out. We get a good picture of them. I won't have to borrow them, and I don't have to worry about being responsible for them. Hard to get rid of that reflection, though. Sometimes if you curl a little bit. It's a wonder that that wing stayed on there after that big a hole right next to it.
Well, I couldn't see why the fuselage didn't break in two, because it was just the top 1/3 of it holding the front and the back of the plane together.
Mm-hmm. Now, when the bombardier had to go release those bombs, was that catwalk thing still there, or
Yeah,
he was able to walk out on
yeah,
that? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, that would take courage.
One of our reunions down in, what was it? I guess it was in St. Louis. We had the Memphis Belle down there. Now,
Oh, really?
Not the original one.
To say the
It was the guy, the one that they used in the movie, though. It was a, and
can you put those back in for me? I don't want to bend them.
In other words, you wanted his son to
I
swear
want you
away.
to be in trouble, not me.
and my grandkids all got to go through that. And well, I
Well,
guess just
did
my
they-
one grandson did, but
Was it an original B-17?
it was the original B-17, but
Not the same one.
No, well, it was two shot, but it's the one they used in the movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that was a good movie. I've got that the documentary that they based that movie on too, on tape. It's
Well, the fellow,
pretty good.
there's a fellow named Taliki Brew, something who's connected with the Hunter Bomb Group. He has a bunch of restaurants at different airports throughout the United States. One is in St. Louis, there's one in Cleveland, and I think he's got, well, a do guy. He has a whole bunch of them. I forget what he calls them. They're named after the Hunter Bomb Group.
Oh,
But I can't think of any of them now. And anyway, he owned this Memphis Belle.
the one that was used in the movie.
Yeah, and the one that was down at St. Louis. And,
Uh-huh. Yeah, they had one in Ankeny yesterday, and I crawled through it with my video camera.
17.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
from some museum down in Texas. But
I
this
don't
one was
see-
the most complete I've seen. I've been through B-17s before, but usually they don't have the guns anymore or something like that.
Yeah.
But this one seemed to have everything.
This one had guns. The Memphis Belle had the guns in it. And
I bet your grandkids like that. But that was fun for
oh
them.
yeah, you know.
Now you got like on some of these 6.5 hours, 8 hours. Is that how long the missions were?
Yeah.
Was that about normal? 8 hours?
Yeah. Well, 8 would be the long end of it.
That's one way, or is that round
No,
trip?
that's round trip.
Is there just one picture of you in here? Just that one graduation picture, as far as we know?
Probably. I don't.
I'll thumb through. See.
I imagine it's just one.
I mean, you're not in any of these pictures, are you? Like the you were in the pictures of the navigators.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be ahead of that, would you? In any
No.
of these pictures?
I don't think so.
I don't know all the stuff
I don't really know, but I doubt it.
You've got an entry here for D-Day. You remember much about D-Day?
Yeah, we were flying. That was an easy one.
How so?
Well, we didn't do anything except fly over there and more like watching the war than anything else, watching them land and
So you weren't part of it then. You were just flying your.
no, it was a mission.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Was it specifically connected with D-Day?
Huh?
Was it specifically?
Yeah, it was connected with D-Day. Yeah, we went over on a sightseeing tour, but it turned out to be. We had one mission. We flew down into St. Louis, France, just to drop supplies, and we got down to. Seems to me like it was 500 feet above ground is off of that one, but.
I think I'm reading that very one. You talk about dropped munitions via parachutes to French partisans
Yeah.
from 200 feet to 300 feet off the ground. 500 feet to 7,000 feet high. French had 3 bonfires burning.
Now you see, I don't remember that. If I hadn't written it down, I remember flying over it, but I don't remember the
Okay.
detail. I remember
You've got here,
flying.
many French people out waiting for us.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Oh, and here you mentioned the secondary target. Now, you had like 2 targets each mission, a primary and a secondary?
Yeah, I can't tell you for sure, but we did for every mission, but we did for some.
Okay. So if you couldn't hit the first one, then you're supposed to try for the second one.
The only reason probably for not hitting the first one would probably be because of weather. We had a guy named Rosenberg, a Jewish fella, and he had a plane called Rosie's Riveters, and he led a lot of missions. And I'll tell you, he really wanted to get back at Hitler and the Nazis. He would fly through everything to do it. Fly, you know, a lot of times you fly around it if you see it ahead, but he didn't. And I think he's been at our meetings, you know, get-togethers, and it seems to me like he was shot down 3 or 4 times, made it back through enemy lines, went back to a 100-bomb group, and just started flying again. You know, and when you get shot down like that, that's an excuse. You don't have to do it anymore if you don't want to.
But he wanted to.
Oh, he sure did.
He had a personal reason.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, anything else you can think of that comes to mind?
No, not really.
Bruce, what have I not asked about that I should?
Would you like to take that book home and browse through sometime?
If I could, yeah.
It's not, you know, it probably, it might be interesting to you because you have a curious mind about that sort of thing, but I don't think it'd be interesting to most people to read it.
Are you mentioned in here?
Well, our crew is. I think. It's been so long since I looked at it, I can't remember now. I've read it, and I've got different stuff underlined in there, and I can't remember even what it was now. But,
Oh yeah, you're in here. Got you down in San Bernardino, California.
yeah, that, my folks moved to San Bernardino several months before I got called into the service. They moved from Williams to San Bernardino.
Oh, okay.
And but I never moved. But my home address suddenly became
That was your mailing address.
189
okay.
Magnolia Avenue, San Bernardino. I've been to visit them a few times out there. I'd never been there.
And this is a newsletter for your association.
Yeah, and that particular one there has a little write-up about our crew in it, about my grandchildren and my grandsons.
You see that? That's a good picture. Think of any questions, Bruce?
Yeah, when you were over there, I mean, I'm trying to imagine me being over there, and I think I would be just in a constant state, at least a small level of continual fear.
But yeah, I used to fill my pants every time I got in an airplane.
Yeah.
I didn't, but
So I never got to be old hat.
no, not for me. Now, there's some people that, you know, different people, really kind of, I would guess Dara Roberts probably might have just gloried in that damn stuff. But then,
So you couldn't wait. You never got to the point where you couldn't wait to get in the plane.
well, there's no way I would try to get out of doing what I did. But I used to talk all the time about if I could find someplace to run and hide, that's what I'd do. But I didn't know where to hide. You know, I used to always say I'd rather be a live coward than a dead hero. You know, I was not Mr. Brave, and most guys, I think, are that way if they wanted to admit it. But
I think I've heard that comment from other people I've talked to too, and they say, that was the
But you
reality
wanna-
of it. You're scared, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
So.
and I really think that war was really justified. Some of them you wonder about, and I sure put Vietnam in that category. But
Did you have any? I talked to some people, veterans who were in the Pacific Theater, and they say they still have a lot of hard feelings towards the Japanese and would never buy a Japanese car. Do you have any feelings like that today?
No.
Or?
No, even, I never did. And, but those same people, I'm sure, resent Hispanics taking jobs from them, and the black people, and I think there are some people, I think that, think if you're not lily white, and, but if that even, so it's all true, and I don't think it's much out, but what was true, what's that got to do with the present generation of Japanese, any more than, you know, we're not all goodies over here either.
So you don't think their prejudice was just, you know, you don't think they liked blacks and Hispanics and Latinos, but hated Japanese? You think they just kind of didn't like
I would bet you, I don't know, but I bet a lot of those people would feel about the same way about Jews and blacks and
So it wasn't just a real specific
Hispanics.
prejudice.
I don't. I'm just much just
It could be.
my people. Some people just have real prejudice. No, I've never.
I'm gonna
One
get
thing
a shot of this.
I don't understand why they allow illegal immigrants into this country. I don't mind them letting them in if they're legal, but I don't know why. If it's illegal, I don't see how they can be here.
Well, yeah, but the huge corporations love illegal
Well, sure,
immigrants.
they love that,
You know,
but they don't want to pay taxes to educate them.
yeah, the whole, yeah, we reinforce it.
Huh?
You know, we reinforce it.
No, but in California, they like to get the Hispanics in there because of cheap labor, but they don't want to pay to educate them.
Yeah. If we weren't making it worth their effort, they sure as hell wouldn't be doing it.
Ginny's brother, the one that did those Apollo things there, he and his wife are both just great people. And they've lived in California for a long time now. And they had a furniture manufacturing company out there, doing just great. And every one of her employees that was in the furniture building business was an illegal Hispanic.
Okay.
And
Cheap labor.
yeah, but cheap and good and reliable, they hate them. And they don't like the Japanese and you know, and I understand they have a different situation there because we've kind of taken over that country. But when you bring them in, you take advantage of their cheap labor. You like them for that, but nothing else.
You got a good point
Of
there.
course, that kind of, your sister is not exactly known for her.
No, but she's not that way.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
Well, if this was your fifth mission when you were shot up so bad, but that made the next 30 kind of hard to face. I mean,
Well, actually, no, that was just kind of I don't think if we'd had to fly another one of those to France the next day, it wouldn't be near as scary as flying to Berlin, because that was just kind of a fluke that happened. You know, not very often an 88 millimeter flak shell will land right in your airplane and then explode. That's got to be.
oh, you had 500-pound bombs that mission, huh?
Yeah.
Now, if one of them had been hit, that would have been it, wouldn't it? If one of those bombs had gone off in the plane, that probably would have been the end of it, wouldn't it?
Well, I would think so. But I thought an 88 millimeter flak shell, that's a pretty damn big flak shell. I would have thought that would have been it. You can tell when it did that airplane that wasn't anything little.
The 88s were the German artillery, right?
Yeah.
The flak.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's called artillery or not, but they shot flak. You could be flying at 30,000 feet to get up over cloud cover. Suddenly you'd see a puff up there, one of those damn flaks that come up through the clouds and exploded near you.
It's a whole story right in here. You should read this, Bruce, if you haven't.
You probably have, haven't you?
Is that one of your latest newsletters? Is that all
Well,
recent?
no, this was written, after we went to St. Louis.
I probably haven't read it then.
No. After we went to Little Rock,
I don't think I've read it.
because that's when all three kids went, was to Little Rock.
So you think you might go to Fort Worth though?
I don't have any idea.
Well, do you want to?
Oh, and
Or is that kind of up to Teresa?
Well, yeah, it's up to how mad Teresa wants to do it. And I know the grandkids want to, but
You should go to as many as you can.
and it depends on whether my crew is there or not. I know Bushmeyer will be there, but whether Red and John will be there. There's about 6 members of our crew still available, but there's been just 4 of us, 5 of us have shown up.
Six out of
us showed up once.
6 out of 9 or 10.
Out of 10, yeah.
Did you have a full 10 most times you went? Sometimes I've heard that they only.
Oh
had
yeah,
9.
whenever I flew, all 10 were along, yeah.
I think he was just in there once.
But we lost a co-pilot, and we lost an engineer, 2 radio operators. I think it was 2. I know it was at least 2. But they're still
What do you mean you lost them? They were killed.
killed. Yeah.
And from your crew?
Yeah.
By flak or
Yeah, shot down. But
on different? Not when you were on the plane with them.
the only one that I was with, but we lost one, was that radio operator got blown out. Yeah. Oh no, they got shot down.
Okay.
This Bushmeyer, our waste gunner, he was shot down on his last mission, but he became prisoner of war. That's what you ever talked to Clyde Castle?
No.
Well, he was in the Air Force, Ellsworth Air Force. Did you know about him?
I don't remember that name. No.
Well, where's that? I'm sure, where you got that picture of
The
Clyde Castle. He used to run Clydell clothing store.
is he still around?
Yeah, he went in same time I did, and he was shot down early in the war. I don't think I'm just guessing. Well, he flew more than 4 or 5 missions, and he was a prisoner, I think, during the whole war. And he has a bad leg. I think he's got a disability. And he lives, he did live right across the street here when he had Clydell's clothing store.
Right.
But he lives now up at a junior high. He built one of them,
Across from Susie Weaver's house. Burl's
Oh,
house,
okay.
some of those new
Okay.
houses.
So he was one of the Ellsworth flyers, and then he was shot down early, you say, and prisoner of the Germans.
Yeah. In fact, he went out to, we worked together because he became a pilot, and he was out in Washington, most of Lake Washington, the same time I was, but he was attached to, just by chance, because he was a pilot and attached to a crew out there, and I think it was every 5 missions they gave you an air medal, every 6 missions, medically to you.
Just by surviving that many missions.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, you didn't have to be any particular kind of
Your
hero.
qualification was to not get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.